Hello everyone and welcome back to another video featuring the best boys Getselious and Sithscott.
Hello!
And this time, in the month of May, in May 2024, the year of our Lord, the sisters have come back and divided to give us and bless us with Maytunia.
Maytunia!
Maytunia!
This is that month of the year.
It's that month of the year. Yeah, for some reason, the gods have decided to bless us with multiple Neptunia titles. And I can't believe they did it all in one sitting. I think they're going to space it out. But
seriously,
it's crazy. So before we get into talking about the holiness of Maytunia, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you'll be notified when we go live with content, and be sure to check out the Outerhaven YouTube channel where we have podcasts, reviews, interviews, gameplay, live streams, and more here at the Outerhaven YouTube channel. So Maytunia has begun.
Yes, it has. Now we start off with the greatness that is going to be the newest game in the Neptunia series. Game Maker Revolution!
Sorry to keep you waiting.
Starring Adult Neptune. Or
President Neptune is here. Oh, Lord.
So, this game is the newest game. It's going to be on PlayStation and on Nintendo Switch. They're still working on a PC port for it. One day we'll get it.
One day.
And Neptunia is basically about the adult Neppy. She is a character who is a dimension traveler who likes to collect bugs. But she stumbles into this dimension who have a lot of failed consoles and a lot of failed game makers. And so she takes it upon herself to become the president of all these game makers that are failures in their spot.
Yeah, from humble beginnings.
It's cool because it does a lot of interesting showcasing of how development works from a more indie standpoint.
Yeah, it's not just they just throw money at it and game is made. Trust me, I tried that.
I wish.
I wish. But no, it's really good. And it's also like, think about Neptunia in general. It's a very good parody. But the only thing that I feel like the critiques I feel that hold Neptunia back is, ew, it's like, it's way too anime-topey. Like, the tropes are used as memes to tell the other meme. It's a layered meme. It's a layered cake.
It is. It really is layered. There's a lot going for Neptunia games in general. And it is definitely like a parody slash satire. It's just funny because it's a parody slash satire on like the entire game industry as a whole. And this one in particular is going to be about making video games.
Yeah, and it comes out May 14th. So that's like essentially, if this video comes out soon, next week, you know? Yeah, May 14th.
Yeah, it's coming out quick.
Yeah. Now, here comes the next month. Next Maytunia, baby. Let's go.
So this is going to be setting unprecedented levels. Because first off, it's the first Neptunia game on an Xbox console. Those of you who are fans of Bert in the game, which was basically the candidate of Cleanbox, who's the Xbox candidate, basically. This is Sisters versus Sisters on the Xbox. It's going to automatically have the swimsuit in the game, which is something that the other versions of Sisters did not have. But this is going to be on the Xbox normal price as it is on PlayStation and PC right now. And it's still, this game initially came out like a year ago, but it's still a really good game. It's also the first, it's going to be the engine that they're using for the Game Maker game that is going to be also coming out this month. So
it's the prequel to the prequel. That's what you're saying.
It's interesting. So Sisters versus Sisters, for those who are also wondering, is technically a spin-off of the Neptunia universe, but it's a spin-off that does deal with the Hyperdimension stuff, because the difference of why it's a spin-off is because of how it gets resolved as like a loop. So it's not, so it's a spin-off because it doesn't really add to the story other than the fact that it adds a whole new nation for the computer people. This Sisters vs. Sisters is kind of its own take on the mobile game and the PC part of the game industry.
Cool. And that means that I'm going to skip this game because I don't have an Xbox. I'm just kidding. It's on PC. I'll probably, yeah.
It's on PC, and it's on PlayStation, and it's on Nintendo Switch. This is going to be the first time a Neptunia game will be basically everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. All handful of you who play RPGs on the Xbox can now have a Neptunia game. We're proud of you.
Buy it. Get that green box.
Get that green box. This will save the Xbox for sure, guys. All right. So ID effect. Wait,
So,
all the Neptunias in May are just singly the turn-based RPG ones? Wasn't it a Manchu one?
There was a Muso one, yeah. That one is still on Steam only. Well, it's on, I think, PlayStation Vita as well. But Steam is like meant to play it. This one, if I recall, is Rebirth 1. So this is on Nintendo Switch. So they're bringing the entire Rebirth series to Nintendo Switch. This is the first Rebirth, which, for those who don't know, the original Neptunia trilogy, Neptunia, Hyperdimension MK2, and Hyperdimension V Victory, was on the PlayStation 3. When the PlayStation 3 went to PlayStation 4, the Neptunia Series went to the Vita as a Rebirth collection, or Rebirth series, which was a redo of the story with new game design, new game mechanics, and so on.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Like, so when I had the Vita for a period of my life, that I still look at now, I remember there was an advertisement, like, it was like, you know, not PSN, it was like, because at the time I was playing Demon Gaze 1 and 2, and it's like, oh, hey, would you also like to try Hyperdimension? Like, gross! I'm playing RPGs over here. Ick! You know, but I remember, yeah, that's right. Like, it was there. It was there, like, oh, yeah, it was advertised right there. I remember that.
So this is the beginning of the series of Neptunia, technically, in story. The first Neptunia game is actually about the end of the console war, in the sense that the character who oversees the Sega Dimension, or Planetune, which is Neptune, gets kicked out of the console wars and has to save the consoles from a secret evil that's eventually going to come. And so she basically teams up, or has to gather the rest of the console goddesses as she figures out who she is. Because she doesn't know in the beginning that she is the console goddess that long. Which is always fun to see.
So,
because when you meet the other console goddesses in this game, they all know who Neptune is, but Neptune doesn't know who she is.
Alright, so you're telling me that we made an entire game where you have to beat Phil Spencer for his bad business decisions to game? Like, I mean, if that's the case, sure, I'm down with that.
This is just a fun, like, the first one is a fun documentary on just, like, seeing how the effects of a console that goes third party, basically. Because this is, if people remember, similar to when basically Sega got kicked out of the console war, they had to start becoming a third-party publisher and start getting more games and more things to actually get them on other consoles. And so this is kind of how this works in the first Neptunia Rebirth. It kind of explores that, but it also explores a lot with how the world of game industry works. Not the game industry, but game industry, which is the world of that Neptunia resides in.
Yeah. The thing is, like, to me, is like, I remember, yeah, to be super serious, it's like, Sega, when they stopped, well, I still love Sega, when Sega stopped being a console maker and into, you know, essentially a developer and a publisher, it was a huge shift for them, as well as, like, you know, they made a couple of games that were not good, and people still think about those games. But, hey, Sega's good now, and I'm okay with that, because sometimes no one gets it right the first time. I mean, after all, they were making consoles, and now they have to make games for other people, then take deals, and then get exclusives, which that's a whole bag of worms on its own.
Their own growing pains as a company.
Yeah. Console exclusive can make you or break you. That is just facts these days.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So this is going to be on Neptunia Rebirths on the Nintendo Switch. Another big precedent moment for it is the fact that this is the first time it's getting on the handheld again on the Nintendo Switch. Before, the first handheld was the Vita, then it was on PC, and then it had a few excursions on PlayStation, and now it's finally on Switch.
Wow. It seems like so far Nintendo is getting it into, like, Nintendo's eating good this month, you know?
Oh, absolutely. They're getting 4 of the 5 of these. If you have a Nintendo Switch, you're going to have a great Neptunia month.
Yeah.
Alrighty. This one. Oh, this is the second one. This is Neptunia Rebirth 2 Mark II. So this is the Sisters generation. Basically, these are what's known as the goddess candidates. They're underneath the other goddesses. We have Nep here, who obviously is the reminiscent of the Game Gear. After we'll get, for last station, you'll get Uni, which is the representation of the PlayStation Portal / Vita. And then you have Rom and Ram, who is the Louie, which at this time it was because the Nintendo was on the Wii, so it was Loey. Not something Nintendo bitches. How dare Nintendo change their console names, whereas everything else. But ROM and RAM are reminiscent of the DS and the 3DS, hence double of them. Dual screens.
Dual screen, yeah. I'm just picturing.
So these are basically like, yeah, the handheld. But also, it's a pretty dark story because the beginning is basically almost the death of the goddesses. And it goes on to the sisters here to have to rescue the goddesses from the big evil bad.
If the big bad is Phil Spencer, I think I'd be suing you. I'm like, god dang it, stop it, Neptunia. But no, I joke, but I feel like that kind of makes sense though, because it's like the tail of the handheld kind of died until recently. Like,
yeah,
like to be super fair and honest, it's like the DS, like. So the Game Boy in general, the Nintendo handheld was the king of the handhelds. There were others. You had the Sega Game Gear for a while. You had the Neo Geo Pocket for a while. You had
that existed.
You had yeah exactly. You had, and we had the Vita, but none of them competed with the Nintendo Game Boy Advance and the DS and the DSs or the Game Boys in general. And the reason why is, for some reason, making a handheld console that's easy to make games and to pump them out easily really works. Maybe it's not about being the prettiest. It's about being the one that can make the most. Just saying. Maybe it's not all about power. Maybe it's not all about power.
Yeah. Another thing that's funnily noted in this is I think it was similarly after that when it was the PS3 and the Wii U were struggling, but the PSP and the DS were basically the reasons why both of those companies were still profitable.
No, 100%, yeah. But I remember, it was one time in my youth, I was with my old man, and my old man was about game stuff. He was like, I'm telling you, young Gets, that that little thing you have in your hands carrying the whole company. Cause I haven't bought a Nintendo game in a while, but you're buying all the exactly. Like, yeah, you buy those games like every other month, but I never see you buy a real Nintendo game. Like, yeah, we talk about the Wii and whatever. Like, that's true. Yeah, it was carrying the company. It was.
It really was. So another thing to note for Neptunia games is if you understand like where in time these kind of games take place in, and how the game industry was at the time, you'll see a lot of like deja vu similarities, which is honestly one of my favorite things about Neptunia is they understand how the game industry was at the time that they're making and what it's supposed to be kind of a theme of and what kind of message they send with it.
Right, but don't worry though. It's all about anime tropes and ooh booga. Don't think about the actual layers of the games. Like it's actually
really.
Don't
think about the layers or the gameplay. Just think about there's fan service in this game.
You said it's one of those that like I mean this unironically. Like I'm not the biggest fan of Neptunia. I think they're really interesting. They do cool stuff. But at least I know like this is a very well thought out parody. This isn't just look it's fan service. It's look, they did the ice cream episode. Oh, they did the beach episode. Like, it's not that. It's actually more than that. But please. Please.
Yes. Alrighty. Now comes the final game of the Rebirth trilogy, I believe. Yes, V Generation, which is the remake of V Victory for the PS3 in a different kind of way. So, this is... a different dimension. This is when they started playing around with dimensions of game industry, kind of like what-if scenarios. And this is supposed to be like a different time period of that dimension, where Neptune meets the console goddess of Planetune, but it's a different character named Plutia.
Oh, wow.
And she has a fun character notice, but we also get to see how early PlayStation was and early Nintendo. I think Xbox does show up. Yeah, Xbox does show up, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense in this regard, but it's just more of just because we have the character already made.
We have the character. Like, don't worry, guys, we did it.
Yeah, but it's interesting because you get to see an older angle of how consoles kind of worked in the like older generations of time back in like the 80s and 90s. But also, it's showing up the big bride up of honestly more or less Last Station. It shows a lot of Last Station and Loe's abilities of growing from the 80s to what they are that you see in the other dimensions of Neptunia. But this is also a thing where you also get to see the how they played around with dimensions for the first time.
Oh,
so the third game shows a lot of what they were able to do with what-if scenarios. And it also was the reason why we have so many spin-off games afterwards, because they're playing around with different dimensions in Neptunia.
That sounds cool. But I guess if we put it interestingly though, like if there was a game for you to recommend for Maytunia, which one would you recommend for anybody? Which is the way, like, this is the game you should definitely, if you want to get at least the essence of a Neptunia game that isn't just memes.
So of all of these, I'd suggest one of two of them. Either Game Maker, or because Game Maker takes place in a whole different dimension with a whole different rule set and a whole lot of different like tropes that you won't have to really understand too much of the backstory of the other games, or Rebirth 1. Rebirth 1 as the beginning, because it's easy to just begin at number 1, and now that it's on the Nintendo Switch, it's going to be even easier and even more accessible, which is always nice to have.
Right, which also means, unironically too, so I believe in the month of Maytunia they're slamming everybody. Everyone is somewhat getting it, right?
Everybody's getting something. Xbox fans even get something.
Yeah.
Which is usually unprecedented for Neptunia. Neptunia is always, I always like laugh, like they never show anything on Xbox. There's a lot of people who thought that is because Sony had such a strict contract with them. But I guess that either the strict contract got a lot less strict, or they just haven't found a reason to put it to Xbox till now.
Yeah. I think that certainly makes sense. I also think too, it's like it's a licensing, not licensing, it's whatever. It's like, because if you're negotiating with, like, well, Microsoft is going more of a subscription license model now. It's they do still sell, obviously, the storefront, but because they lean towards the subscription model method, it's pretty difficult to license how you get paid, because most people are like, well, if I sell 10 units, you take 40%, I take 60 to go home. Actually, buddy, that's the numbers, and that's the numbers game. That's what I call it, the accounting. Let's not talk about that. Yeah, let's not talk about that. But I'm generally, like, glad that everyone's getting a chance to try this series out. I think, like, one of the issues, like, in general, when it comes to, like, I hate to say this, non-Atlas and non-Square Enix RPGs, it's like the inability to get them. Like, so, like, a lot of them tend to be tied up to, at one point, Sony, or at least on Sony platforms, because Sony was a place for RPGs. But as time went on, we got Steam, and Steam's been a place for a bunch of indie and other RPGs, so that's pretty good too. Oh, and Nintendo too, but Nintendo is, I feel like Nintendo has a lot of niche RPGs that people don't play. It's just kind of there.
They have the option, and that's kind of the big thing for Nintendo Switch, is that there's a lot of options, but I do agree that not everybody's going to have those options because there is so much.
Yeah.
You go onto like the eShop, there's just a slew of new titles all the time with nobody knowing what any of these games are.
Pretty much, yeah. So it's like, what's going on? But anyway, super glad that everyone's going to get a chance to play some Neptunia this month. So may Neptunia be with you.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. And with that the way, thank you guys so much for coming out to Scott and I mostly Scott, really, talk about Neptunia as much, because I'm a casual in this series. I'll own that. I'm a freaking casual. But I'm glad I'm available that even now I can actually jump into the series that isn't just Hyper Neptunia Shooter. That's the only one I play because I like shooting games.
Hey, it's a good shooter.
It is. It plays exactly like Space Harry, and that's all I want. But anyway, thank you guys so much for checking us out. Be sure to check out all the Neptunia titles mentioned in the video. They will be available almost everywhere in this month of May 2024 and beyond. So it's pretty good. They launch it all at once.
Yep.
So with that, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell as well, be notified next time we go live with content, and be sure to check out the Outerhaven YouTube channel for more video games, reviews, podcasts, live gameplay, streams, and more. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
See ya.